Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We are in the Acts of the Apostles, the book of Acts, chapter 9, verses 1 through 9. And today we're going to talk about this incredible story of what happened to a man named Saul. Saul, it says, was still breathing murderous threats. He is filled with malice and hatred against God's people, against the Lord's disciples. And he's going from Jerusalem all the way up to Damascus. He's so determined to inflict pain and suffering upon the church that he goes on an out-of-town trip. And he's determined to bind, to make captive people who are God's servants, the disciples, and to drag them back to Jerusalem to face trial and persecution. And I think it's interesting because he's determined to capture them when God is determined to capture us. And here's a man who hated Jesus, who hated his church, Christ's church. He's filled with hate. And God has decided that that's not a big deal. That's something that he can work with. And isn't that amazing that God thinks that a malicious, hate-filled man like Saul is somebody he can work with? And if that's true for Saul, then what does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? I'm honest. I know I am a broken man, and thank God God has decided to use me. What about you? What can God do in your life? And so here, where Paul had used his religion as a justification for his malice, now we know as Christians that our religion, really, because it's not about religion, our faith in God is never a reason to hate people. There is no hating people for God. In fact, the Bible is really clear, especially the apostles are really clear, that we're to love people for God. And so, we recognize in Paul this bitterness against Christians, this hatred against Christ, and God decides to reach into Saul's life and shake him up and get his attention. And so there's this bright light flashes around him. He falls to the ground. He's knocked off his horse, knocked on his butt, right? He's knocked on his butt, and he hears the voice, Saul, why do you persecute me? And he says, who are you, Lord? And the Lord answers, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. And I would ask you this, if God breaks into your life and he asks you, who am I to you? What would you say? Would you say, would he say, I'm Jesus, who you ignore? I'm Jesus, who you think is convenient when you want to use him. I am Jesus, who you hate. I'm Jesus, who you adore. I'm Jesus, who you study. I'm Jesus, who you serve. How would Jesus say you relate to him? Because that's what happens here with Saul. So I invite you to pray about that today. Have a blessed day.